Welcome back to Not Alone with Melissa Sue Methvin. Today is a special edition because I'm launching my new book here in January 2026, and I'm just so excited to share it with you. So my next book is called The Gut-God Connection, and today I'm going to talk about the blueprint. So this will be a coaching program that I'm starting in January, but I just want to come out here and explain what that is because there's so much information that I can't wait to share with you. So today we're going to dive into the Gut-God Blueprint.
What's the name of your new book?
The Gut-God Connection.
How did you come up with the name?
I didn't come up with it, but God told me to call it that. A lot of times with my books, I pray on it as to, I knew I was going to write a second book. So I start praying, asking, what am I supposed to write about? And what's the title? What's going to be, even the cover? I get the whole picture. And actually, a lot of times I'll wake up from sleep and then I woke up one day, I said the gut-God connection. And a lot of it is because I've been studying the gut-brain connection. But as I was going through my own healing from mold toxicity, trauma, grief, and just gut health in general, I was like, but this is the center as well where I hear God's whispers. So I said, well, it's also not just a gut-brain connection, it's the gut-God connection and how our environments and everything that happens in our lifetime, emotional, is usually in the gut. But that's also where God is within us. And so if we are out in alignment, not in harmony, no balance in our gut, it's hard to have that clarity or where we can hear God. Because a lot of times God, he's not loud and telling us, go this way. It's going to be these quiet whispers, and oftentimes these little nudges, we have a hard time listening. So I'm the biggest science project with my own healing of fasting and praying and how clear I was when I was fasting and praying, when I'm trying to make really, really big decisions and stay connected and grounded. That clarity, I want that for everyone. So my book is that. It's more coming from I'm this guide, this friend that I wish I would have had, decades ago. Because that wisdom that I've learned through grief, through trauma, mold toxicity, gut health, for my children's traumas, I want to share that, what I've learned, because I'm curious in nature. I ask a lot of questions and I dig deeper. I'm very much of a root cause. I mean, I have over 16 years experience in dental hygiene, and what I learned through each patient that I had, the mouth created this mirror of their life. And I started connecting the dot. I am very much preventative health, as a dental hygienist, is all about preventative. I'm trying to keep you from having big procedures from the dentist. So I'm trying to teach you those tools. So that's always been innate for me, is preventative health. And from a young age at 20, I'm seeing a naturopath. I'm going more to nature for my own health. And that's what I want to advocate with this book is what I've found from the detox protocols, what works, how to safely do that, but ultimately also blending spirituality. Because without God and prayer, you can do all the work you want. And if you don't have that connection or that clarity and that time to go within, you're always going to seek outside yourself for healing. So I'm also trying to blend science, mind, and body. So I don't think a lot of people blend that. You go to your doctor and they're not going to start talking about God. Well, have you been praying? Do you have a spiritual practice? So I'm trying to bring in the science that I love. I love science. I'm taking this neuroscience certification now. I'm going to take another functional medicine because I just want to keep learning about the body. But I already have done that for years and years. And I'm just sharing my own wisdom through a lot of specialists that I've had to see over the years to dig to the root cause. And I know financially, not everybody can go see these specialists. I've gone to pay $5,000 for my son to get a brain scan to see that there's inflammation in the amygdala. And then I'm like, well, why? So I want to speak to that mom, that dad. Hey, is your son showing these signs? Well, there could be some inflammation in the brain. I'm not here to diagnose, but just be that friend to share, here's what we were going through. And maybe it's that little nudge that plants that seed going, I have these symptoms. Maybe it's more of like a guidebook, where you can go next.
Do you feel the gut is a conduit or even the best conduit to God?
Yes. Yes, I truly believe that it is, just through my own practice. Because I've noticed that if my gut, which my gut was very much, they call it the leaky gut, mold toxicity, parasites, you name it, we were just out of balance, that I had brain fog. So when you have brain fog, making any decisions is so hard, and you feel that overwhelm, you feel that anxiety, you don't feel good in your body, and your mind is spiraling in your thoughts. So when I do feel that if you can find that balance and reduce that inflammation, then I'm more calm and at peace, and I can feel more connected with God.
If God is speaking but our inner world is noisy, does gut turmoil make that connection harder to hear?
Yes, yeah, but it causes so much inflammation. It causes your brain to be inflamed and to have the cognitive decisions and that clarity, and also your immune system is drained. So yes, it has. So I'm trying to blend to show you that your environment, your temple, your body, how to take care of it so well that you can hear God, you can bring in more light, you can heal your body, but you have to be aware of these environments that might be clouding those whispers.
How would you explain to someone at their level that the gut is part of our connection to God? Is it similar to intuition?
Yes, it's like an intuition feeling. But when do we know it's from intuition or from fear, right? And so to decipher each one of them, you really have to be grounded and know, okay, am I making these decisions? Am I getting this gut feeling out of fear because old patterns are coming back? So kind of creating that self-awareness, almost coaching everyone to become so self-aware that, okay, is this coming from God, your intuition, or is this coming out of fear? So a lot of it too, I'm trying to clear fear, because with breath work, nervous system, prayer, because clearing fear, because guess what thrives in fear? Parasites, inflammation, mold, toxicity. You're more susceptible to those environments with fear. So the more I work, I talk a lot about nervous system in prayer and blessing your food, eating food that is nutrient dense. We've lost that in our society now, where we don't just grow all our food and we have the farm and whatnot, but just trying to be mindful to bring back simplicity in our foods, and also even just blessing your food before you eat it and pausing and saying thank you will actually create light. You might not have the most nutritious meal, but blessing your food will kind of make your nervous system so safe and grounded and intentional with every bite. Just those they're kind of bring you back to simplicity and what God's always wanted us to live with. I think we've moved too far one direction, so I'm kind of bringing it back into balance. I had a vision as I'm writing this book. Sometimes I get these visions. That's how I write my book. Actually, I pray, I channel my books, and I'm divinely guided through it all. And that's why I went on Riders Island, and it was such a clean environment. We ate clean, but I do a lot of work to get there. So this is not just, I haven't practiced this. No. And it's hard to maintain sometimes. So I know I'm not perfect. I move out of alignment, but now at least I know how to get back, work on my nervous system, be really clean with my eating, a movement. And it sounds overwhelming, but I actually simplify it. I'm putting out a lot of information in the book, but I think it's important for us to know and to be aware so you can make those conscious decisions and almost create a movement of where you can become your own advocate for your health. We can heal our body. I've read many books where people have healed their body through mindfulness, through tweaking their nutrition. I've met many doctors that work with cancer patients, and just by starting to change their diet, the numbers go down. So there is science behind it, and I do have articles in that back what I'm saying, but a lot of it is just through my own story and me being that guide. So you have direction for that next step, where I want everybody to live a life where it's through their purpose, where they feel peace, that calm, that joy again.
If you could set up 3 questions for people, and if they answer yes to all 3, they need your book. What would those 3 questions be?
Oh, I feel that they've been on the search of what's going on for them, and they've tried a lot of things. Maybe they've tried a lot of different modality for their own body healing, but they're still feeling that they're not getting the answers they're hoping for. Those are the people. I think the people that are kind of feeling overwhelmed even to doing the next step, or they've tried a lot of things, but they're still feeling overwhelmed. They're still feeling a lot of fear and anxiety. They have autoimmune, and just wanting to reconnect to God on a deep level. They have faith, but to truly be able to live your life guided by God, to hear the directions. Sometimes people I'm not sure. I don't know what direction he wants me to go. But so.
It feels like a very nice mix of physical and spiritual. Would you say that's true?
Yes, physical, spiritual, scientific. So I blend science. So I do talk about, the biological dentistry, holistic root. A lot of it is root cause. So I do love science. So I do go into the science, even to the part of for mothers, from birthing. Your child's birthing experience will affect their nervous system. And this is something I wish I would have known as a mother, because both my kids were C-section. One was emergency, and because they were close together, second one should be C-section. That was just the reason. But I didn't realize how this would have impacted them so much in their nervous system. And having those tools that I talk about in my book, that how you can address colic. So many moms say, oh yeah, my child was colic. Oh, I changed all my diet thinking it was my breast milk, or it was this and that, where it was all nervous system related. So they're just these opening topics that I wish I would have known. If you're planning to have a child or going to have a baby, these are all really good to know, but also not anyone that has kids as well, because it's just health related. How do you keep the inflammation down? Why am I so inflamed? Why is all this disease? Sometimes I hear so many people say, well, there's heart disease in my family, so that's inevitable. I don't see it that way. I really don't. I do feel you can change the trajectory for your health. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to, pretend to be, and I'm not going to diagnose you, but I also understand how the mind and the body works so well, and how you have full control. You have full control, and just tweaking those little decisions on a daily basis And so I would take you step by step. I'm going to start this 12-week program. I'm mostly working with women because I do, obviously I'm a woman. I relate so much. I've gone through so many things women are going through right now. The overwhelm, the anxiety, the inflammation, trauma, grief. And I feel I can help guide them to the nervous system to calm down, because unfortunately, this is how you will impact your entire family. If the mom and the woman is not regulated, it has a rippling effect to her family, because especially her children co-regulate with her. So working on the woman first, the heart of the family, I truly believe that it will have a rippling effect to the entire family and for generations. Because I think if I even think of my own mother, generations, they are such givers, over givers. And we have been taught that as women is just give and give and give and give so much that we lose ourselves, lose our own passions, our own directions. And it's actually a disservice to our families, because now we're living depleted, we're overwhelmed, we're stressed, we're not healthy, we're impatient, we're all these things that happen where we're so depleted and we don't feel good, we feel numb, we don't feel joy. So I'm trying to change that now, where we don't need to overgive. We actually need to, as much as we give, and I'm all about, giving back, being of service. That's definitely who I am. But give back as much to yourself is going to be so important, and connecting with God, and also not looking for the quick fix. This is not a quick fix. This is a lifelong tool. And yes, this will be an investment to come into the 12-week program, but this will be lifelong tools that are free, like, your breath, prayer, meditations, and knowing how to keep the inflammations down. You could take that for your lifetime and for generations. Teach it to your children, incorporate it in your family, and teach your grandparents, if they're open to it as well. So I think it's just changing a generational line of women of where they felt taking care of themselves was selfish, or oftentimes they were the last ones to spend money on themselves to take care of themselves. I've noticed countless of women where, my child needs this, we need to go to the doctor for my child, but I won't do my labs for maybe next year because, it's a cost. But ultimately, we need to work on mom, because the children co-regulate with them in their families. And so this is why it's so deeply rooted, because I've been there. I'm still learning as well, but I feel like I have a lot of wisdom and a lot of tools that I feel can, every time I meet someone, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to share for them to maybe start feeling better, and knowing the knowledge that I've learned over the years and decades of seeing different specialists and digging deeper and getting to the root cause as to why we're feeling overwhelmed, anxiety, a lot of fear, and just not on the right path that we want to in life.
How did writing this book change you?
It changed me to trust what I've always kind of known. I've always been into health, and step into what I know. I've always had this block, like, I'm not a doctor. But I've always been on my own reading all these health books, and that's just what I gravitate to. I find it really fascinating. And just to step into, I know this, it just becomes normal to me, that understanding how the body works. And I see it so clearly. Now I go around and I see more. I see everybody on where they're at with their nervous system. I feel it, and energetically, I feel it. I'm really sensitive to different energies, and which I have to protect myself. But in the same way, I've realized that I could step into what I know without any fear of judgment. I think just by sharing, no one can take away my stories and what I've learned over the years. And that's what I'm doing. I'm not pretending to be, top doctors and whatnot. I'm just sharing this as hopefully being a guide and a friend that's just sharing her life journey so far with health.
What would you say your frustrations were that you wanted to help with when writing this book?
Oh my goodness. Yes, that's a good question because when I was writing this book, I feel like I live my books. And I was like, okay, next book I'm going to write is like being this millionaire or whatever, because I was literally living my book. When I was asking what I'm going to write, all of a sudden I'm showing signs of mold toxicity for me and my kids, and having to detox from that. That's a whole process. And it's not an overnight thing. We still are dealing with different bacteria that are thriving in mold, and understanding it all. So I think the challenge was living my book, but I think God was giving me these stories so I can write about it. But so that was the challenge, was like, okay, how much more am I going to get? And these roadblocks, but I think it was all part of the learning experience so I can write about it. I live my books, so then I have a story to share. And I think that's the hard part. And the hard part for writing, for authors, I think I'm in the second round of editing, and it's going to go live here in January 2026. Is like, okay, you reread it. Like, it feels really confident when I'm writing it, that, and I send it to editors. I'm like, yes. But as I'm editing and getting close to publishing, I'm like, oh, what are people going to think about this? Is this going to be good? You start self-criticism, and actually some people don't even publish it because of that fear of judgment. And that luckily for me, this is the second book. So I've done the first one, and that happened to me. I had so much resistance with my first book as to launching and fearing it. But I also had this, like you said, my gut was telling me there was an urgency for my book because I knew it could save some lives. By sharing my story. So I had to get out of my own way, like I said, and just publish it. And the blessings that I got from the truth behind the smiles is giving me more confidence now in birthing the gut God connection, because that's okay. That's my truth. And no one could take away my story. And it might not resonate with everybody, but I have a feeling it's going to resonate with a lot of people. And it's going to open up things they had never heard about, and hopefully guide them in a direction to give them better health, mentally, physically, spiritually. So blending the science of spiritual and physical.
Why does imposter syndrome stop passionate people from speaking up, even when they know more than the experts?
Yeah, I've always been passionate. People ask me all the time, have you always liked to, be into health? Yes, I always have. I've always been passionate. And also I'm passionate because I want people to feel good. I want other people to feel healthy and joy and vitality. I mean, and I think my passion too is that I look at my grandfather. He's going to be 97 in January. He's living with so much vitality. So every time I go visit in Quebec City, I sit down beside him and ask him, what is it? I mean, he dances the tango 4 times a week with his girlfriend, and he, does people's taxes. He's so vibrant. You would never know he's 97, and that's how I want to live. And I know that's how a lot of people want to live too. So I've also learned from him, in a lot of it. For him, he's so rooted in his faith, and his mentality and in his spiritual practice and the perspective. And another word that he used a lot too when I talked to him is forgiveness. And I know forgiveness is probably the hardest for ourselves. If we always spiral back to some of the things we've done, we are so hard on ourselves. Whereas if I was sitting here and you're telling me about something you've done, back in the day, I'd be like, oh yeah, whatever. That's not who you are right now. But you may be still spiraling in that, I wish I would have never done that, But I think God, he says, let that go. Let that go. Today's a new day. So my grandfather, that's definitely something he's talked about. And we're not perfect, but we're here to feel and to learn and to let go of old patterns and beliefs. So it's And a lot of times when that inflammation happens in our body, like in my first book, I talk about suppression being the silent killer. And I truly saw that. I saw that my husband died by suicide. Suppression of his emotion was that silent killer. So emotional creates disease as well. I suppressed my voice, the more autoimmune disease showed up. Chronic illness, different scares started happening. So it's on an emotional level as well. All these diseases that are showing up is on an emotional. So that's why I use breath work in my program, where we'll do that every week, because breath work is a way that we can release suppressed emotions that we've done for decades. And we have to do that on a regular basis because we suppress probably on a weekly basis, and we need to recalibrate our nervous system. And I feel breath is the best way we can do. God gave us breath. It's the first thing we do, and it's the last thing.
Do you think people overlook how the gut reacts first when we get bad news?
Oh, that's the first sign that I got. For me, when I was suppressing so much and so much fear was coming, oh my gosh, my gut, I had severe acid reflux, and I still worked out 5 days a week. I ate really clean, and I'm seeing doctors and they're like, well, you have GERD. I'm like, I have GERD. How, I thought people who have GERD we eat McDonald's all the time, or, eat processed foods and whatnot. It was all emotion. I was suppressing. I was living in so much fear that it was causing me to have all these gut issues, to the point sometimes I wanted I had nausea, But I think when you're under so much stress, I mean, that's the first thing that went, especially after my husband died too, I was not hungry. The heart too, it's just all these organs start shutting down, and you can't be in that survival mode. And I know the quickest way that I saw for me was breath. And breath, once I teach you that, it's free. You can carry it with you wherever you go. It's the quickest tool to return back to center, return back to God, to calm, to peace, and just with your breath.
Do you think processing our emotions is what opens a clearer connection to God?
I would say I don't go back to reliving some of the traumas, but with breath, you don't have to relive them. You just have to maybe feel them, move them out of your body, and as well, spending more time in prayer. So I say, you have a lot of worry, you got a lot of fear, then we need to spend more time in prayer, spend more time with God to kind of quiet down those spiraling thoughts. Because the more light that we bring in, we can fight darkness. And I truly believe that. And I think when we feel alone, when we feel like we've got nobody else and we really want to feel loved, God will never stop loving us. So he's always there. So connecting with him more, then you can find that love there instead of outside of ourselves. So often we do look outside for validations, and we create these patterns of overgiving because that's safe for us. That creates safety because that's how we feel people will love us if we overgive,
Do you think that creating a strong guide for managing stress is a key part of what you're trying to do?
Yeah, nervous system is, for stress. So you're not living in constant fight and flight. Because I knew for myself, if I live continually in fight and flight, that disease will thrive in that. It causes inflammation, chronic pain, illnesses. So, I've done all these biological age, tests. And a lot of it, how they do that, when, they prick your finger, get your blood, and see biologically, yes, I'm 45, but biologically, how old am I? And I thought, well, how are they doing that? And I asked them, and it's just looking at the inflammation you have in your body. So if we could decrease the inflammation by decreasing the stress, then you're less susceptible to these disease. And that's why I do use sound healing as well, frequencies, because that's on a neuroscience, that's on a cellular level. So all these tools, yes, it's decreasing the stress, but it's mostly the nervous system. Because if your whole nervous system is out of alignment, it will cause blockages anywhere in the body as well.
Do you feel this book is almost like loaning someone your mind, something that could change their life?
Yeah, because sometimes I'm like, oh, it's hard to put it all in words. So I did put it all in words, everything that I've learned over the years. And yes, I just want to be like, read this, and then I will guide you through all this so you don't feel that overwhelmed. Because I understand that for me, all these topics about mold toxicity, parasites, and overall health, and how to prevent cancer, things like that could be really overwhelming for people, whereas I could do a step-by-step where you don't create that overwhelm, and ultimately it's just calming the nervous system. If you can do that, you can create a healthy temple to not make yourself so susceptible to those environments. But it's just blending science with spirituality, because I've seen it with just myself, with my children, how powerful that's been for their healing. I've seen it they're my teachers. I've seen my own children go through where there's a toxic load that a lot of parents don't talk about, that the kids are just at birth, they have a certain toxic load from mom and dad that we don't talk about, and what you can do from a baby to now to prevent these symptoms that later on all come back to their nervous system, and how we can regulate. Because a lot of times these children are born with dysregulated nervous system, but so is the parent. And they're trying to co-regulate, and that's not working. So if we can learn these tools, it's going to be change generations to understand that.
Who did you write the book for? Who do you want to help?
I women, women, I love my circle of women. I really do feel, I feel maybe down the road, there'll be, definitely work with children and men, couples, possibly, how to regulate together. But right now it's definitely more geared towards women, because I can relate. I see them. I understand them. And I do love a good sisterhood. I think it's important for us that if we are together, there's power in healing together and feeling safe to be all of us with no judgment, no matter what shape, size you are, but just have a community of women, a circle of women where we can talk about some of the rage we feel sometimes, the anxiety and without shame, and how we can pray together. There's a power of a circle of women to heal. And I truly believe that. And I feel that circle of women as well then can have a ripple effect back home to our husbands, because I do feel they're the heart of the family.
Do you think women syncing their cycle shows how powerful our internal signals and connections really are?
Yeah, there's a coherence that happens, and there is this bond that is so healing and rooted. And I felt that, I've been lucky enough to have a wonderful group of women, that are other authors, or when I went on Writer's Island, when we were in community, and we are literally all putting our hands on this other woman for her healing, the trauma that they're going through. And I witnessed this many times, that there was a power of a circle of women to heal someone. So if we can create this movement where we don't have to be alone anymore in those struggles, and build a powerful group, a circle of women to heal, then we can help each other rise. I truly believe that. I've always never been competitive, and I see a successful woman, and I have my girlfriends. I have so many girlfriends that are doctors and all that. I'm like, yes. For me, I love seeing women rise and thriving and doing well, even just, the stay-at-home moms that are just working so hard, but, they're never giving back to themselves. Or I see single moms, they're working 50 hours a week, and they're overwhelmed to do everything on their own. That's for that woman as well. You don't have to do it all alone. You need a village. I always say that. I really moved somewhere where I do have a village. I can't do this alone. I can't be podcasting like this. I have my mom back home, another woman who is helping me rise. I can't do this alone. I have friends that support me. So I feel that there's an importance to have a circle of women to help you navigate life.
What's the best compliment someone could give you after reading your book?
Oh, my favorite compliment is always, you're such a good mother, because ultimately that's what I want to be. I want to be a good example. I want to give them the tools for life. Am I perfect? No, but I think that's the biggest compliment for me. And also that I've inspired someone, maybe my resilience inspired their resilience. I truly feel God gifted me, the darkest days of my life, finding my husband when he died by suicide and all those. And if someone could see that story and say, wow, and look at her now, okay, I can do this tomorrow. I can stay. And that's why I have guests on too. I always say losing a child would be unbelievably painful, and how to move forward to that. And that's why I have a lot of guests that speak about that, because then it gives that hope to somebody else going through that, where it's unbearable pain and they don't want to be around for that pain anymore. So I think for me, just to be able to inspire hope is another wonderful compliment.
How does the book line up with the blueprint, and which one should people start with?
As I wrote the book, I could tell that this is going to be a guide, and it will be a coaching program. It'll be a blueprint. I kept praying to God to show me what is that blueprint to get closer to Him and to feel more peace, love, and health. Ultimately, because without our health, we can't enjoy our kids' birthdays. We can't enjoy playing with them. So health has always been a premium for me, because I want to be able to go play soccer with my son. I want to go swim with my daughter. So that's a premium. So I felt, well, I'm going to need, once the book is out, people are going to feel maybe a little bit overwhelmed. Where do I start? So that's why I said, well, I'm going to need a step-by-step to guide these women through this 12-step program. So it's the Gut God Blueprint. So I started writing it out, what that looks like. And at first I thought, oh, we need to detox first to reduce the inflammation. But then I said, no, because you have to start with the nervous system, calming it down, because for your gut to thrive, the nervous system has to be in the parasympathetic, so you don't want to be more susceptible to your environments, to mold, to parasites. So we need to work, first of all, most of the women coming in, their nervous system is probably going to be pretty overwhelmed. So we're going to work on that first. We will do some detox, some fasting, and some prayer, some recipes, what that looks like as far as eating nutritious, dense food. In movement, I'm very much big into movement. So incorporating that breathwork on a weekly basis, but also information about moving through grief and trauma and how to reset your nervous system on a daily basis. And ultimately becoming so attuned to your body, to those whispers, to know, okay, is this rooted in fear, or is this rooted in what God, the whispers? So you're going to find clarity, find more peace. So it's going to be transformational. Just the way you see your body, the way you hear it, the way you listen and live your life. Because ultimately you'll live more of a fulfilled, happy, less inflammation, less overwhelm, less brain fog. That's where I want everybody to be at.
In a perfect world, should they read the book first before they start the program?
I feel it could go either way. You can read the book first, but you don't have to, because I will guide them through the book and the information and to dive into deeper the book. But of course, the ideal would be to read the book first and be mentally prepared and understanding of the concepts and what we're going to dive into.
What is someone feeling right now? And what effects can they expect from the Gut God Blueprint?
I feel the women is feeling a nudge. They want a shift. They want a change. They want more joy. They want more fulfillment. They want more vitality. So they're ready. They're ready to do the work. And they want to be part of a circle of women to do it, Because who wants to do it alone, to go through this journey? And even for me, selfishly, maybe it's for me too. I'm going to now have a group of women to go through these detox, to go through these prayers, to go through these meditations. That way, we're not doing this alone, because there is power of us bringing in that light into our bodies in community. So it's building a movement, a community. And so I think that's for the women looking for a community where they can be guided closer to God, closer to clarity, closer to peace and calm, and just joy too. We're going to have a lot, include fun.
What were the frustrations that led you down this path?
So I've been there. I've been frustrated. I've been where I go to see specialists and I'm told answers that don't make sense to me, and never getting to the root cause. I felt lonely, defeated, and like I'm going crazy. You know, people thinking that maybe I'm thinking up all these illnesses. You know, I'm like so fatigued. I'm losing my hair. I'm so anxious and feeling so lonely, so lost. And as a mother, just wanted to protect my children. And that's ultimately what I wanted to do. But I felt lost when I could tell something was off with them. And I kept on asking more questions and seeing specialists, and we could never get to the root cause until I dug deeper and deeper. And for decades that I had to do that. And that's when I was writing my book, I was almost getting angry, you know? I'm almost getting mad, but it's not what I want people to live in anger, because I know that's harmful too. But I felt angry. You know, why didn't the doctors tell me that? You know, when my son was born, why didn't they tell me these things? So, you know, this is why I've been there. I've been frustrating and turned around and said, well, but you know, oh, well, you have GERD, or take this medication, take this, and just kind of shutting the door on me. So that's where I was frustrated and felt that I couldn't show up the way I wanted to for my kids. Ultimately, I want to be a really good mom. I want to be a good person. But when you're not feeling well, when you're feeling lonely, when you're feeling inflamed and brain fog and completely exhausted, I've been there, where I can sleep 8 hours a day and I'm so drained all day long and struggling. It's hard to parent. It's hard to show up for your friends. And you start losing. Here's where I love to entertain. I love to have people over in full house. I started losing that. I started losing kind of like the joy of life, and what am I doing now? And I didn't want to live like that anymore. So I started seeking what else I can do for me, for myself. And a lot of it, I did move. You know, I had to move where there was more sunshine. I know I needed sunshine. I started doing breath work. I started doing cold plunging. I started, seeing therapists. I started doing the work. And what I found is that by doing the work, there was also, I came to a plateau. I'm like, there's still something off. So then I started asking more questions. I got into the gut. Oh, we had mold in our house. We had parasites. We had all this, which played a role of me not peaking to my optimal health level. So during all that journey, I understand the frustration. I feel like, oh my gosh, how am I going to win this battle of mold toxicity? I feel defeated. I think oftentimes as a parent, we feel defeated and we need community. So I needed community of other people that knew a lot about this and about toxic load, about nervous system. And I started learning, and I will never stop learning. And I want to share what I'm learning, because there's other moms, the other women's out there, women that are, I know, in the same boat. They want the best for their kids. They want to show up as the best mom. And how we do that is through our health, in our environment, in our spiritual practice. And I found too, the more I connected with God, more I had a spiritual practice, the more I didn't look from the outside for validation, more I grew in my own power, in my own strength. And why don't we just all rise together? Because I truly believe everyone has a gift. And right now, we need it more than ever, that everyone rises, because there is a lot of darkness out there. We need more people in the light. And if I can rise these women up into that light and feeling so much vitality, love, and joy, this will have a ripple effect in the people that they love, even maybe strangers. So this is global. I'm trying globally to bring more light. Ultimately, I saw darkness. I felt it. I saw how crippling it can be and how I couldn't get through. No matter what I said, how much love I poured into my husband when he was deep in that trench, I couldn't get through. So that's kind of scary to me. So I got curious as to don't get that far dark, into that dark, because then I could lose you. So how can I keep you more in that vitality? Well, it's environmental. It's toxic load. It's spiritual. It's so much our thoughts, mindfulness. So that's why I'm so passionate about it. I saw darkness, and that's so scary to me. For generations, mostly I'm trying to change generation from lines, old patterns, what we can teach our children, going forward. And this is not, I'm so grateful for my parents. I'm grateful for my grandparents and the teachings that they have taught me, even what my husband has taught me, because now I know what to look for and I know what I can share. It's a gift. I can share this story. I can capture now in people's hearts because they know I've been through it. And they know I also got out of it, and so, but I still need that community, that movement, because, I want to inspire other people to live in that light as well.
You mentioned becoming the hero you needed. How did that transformation happen for you, and how did it lead to creating the blueprint?
So I always say that I kind of wish I would have had that friend that would kind of shake me up a little bit and give me that truth that I had a hard time seeing. I had a few people kind of shine that, tiptoeing around it a little bit to shine that light, just planting that seed. But I do kind of wish I would have had that friend that came in with so much clarity and wisdom. And depending on where I was at, maybe I wasn't ready for that information and go dive into it, but I would have planted that seed. And the more people plant that seed, the more of like, okay, I see it clearly now. I'm going to move towards, doing some more healing and guidance. So yes, I do wish I would have had that friend. So I want to be that friend that is sharing all our information, all of it, because it's not for me to hold to myself. Oh, look what I found out. No, it's meant to be shared. And I'm sharing it as a friend, as a guide, and in hoping that it helps them as well.